Public representation of the brokerage, where risk is highest. As we conclude Chapter 5, we move into one of the most visible and most heavily regulated areas of real estate practice: advertising. Advertising is where the brokerage meets the public, and it is also where many compliance violations occur. This section ties together everything we have discussed so far: office identification, licensing, supervision, and document control all lead to one critical question: how is the brokerage represented to the public? Under AAC R428502, all advertising conducted by a licensee is considered advertising of the employing broker. This means the broker is responsible for every piece of advertising created by their agents, whether it is a yard sign, social media post, website, or AI-generated content. Advertising is not just marketing, it is regulated communication. Broker supervision of advertising, responsibility cannot be delegated. Arizona law is clear: the designated broker must supervise all advertising conducted by agents. Key requirements under AAC R428502 include: advertising must clearly and prominently display the employing broker's name. Advertising must not be false, misleading, or deceptive. The broker must have policies governing advertising practices. The broker must monitor and enforce compliance. For example, an agent in Tempe creates an Instagram post promoting a new listing but only includes their team name and personal branding. If the brokerage name is not clearly displayed, this becomes a violation, even if the omission was unintentional. A common misconception is that agents are solely responsible for their own advertising. In reality, the broker is accountable for ensuring all advertising meets regulatory standards. This ties directly into AAC R4281103, which requires active supervision of all brokerage activities, including marketing. Social media and AI advertising risks: the new compliance frontier. Modern advertising has expanded far beyond traditional methods. Social media platforms and AI tools now play a major role in how agents market properties and themselves. While these tools create opportunity, they also introduce significant compliance risks. Common risks include failure to include brokerage identification in social media posts, AI-generated descriptions that exaggerate or misrepresent property features, automated marketing that violates fair housing principles, use of unverified or outdated property information. For example, an agent in Scottsdale uses an AI tool to generate a listing description that states, "perfect investment with guaranteed appreciation." This language is misleading and could be considered a violation under ARS, paragraph 32-2153 for misrepresentation. Another example involves social media stories or short-form content that omit required brokerage identification. Even temporary or disappearing content must comply with advertising rules. AI tools also raise concerns about data privacy and accuracy. If an agent inputs client or property information into an AI platform, that data may be stored or reused in ways that create compliance risks. The key principle: if the agent publishes it, the broker is responsible for it. Misrepresentation liability, where advertising becomes discipline. Advertising violations often fall under the broader category of misrepresentation. This occurs when information provided to the public is inaccurate, incomplete, or misleading. Under ARS, paragraph 32-2153, misrepresentation is one of the primary grounds for disciplinary action. Examples of misrepresentation include overstating property features, e.g., claiming upgrades that do not exist, failing to disclose known material limitations, using deceptive language in marketing, misleading pricing or availability statements. For example, an agent advertises a property in Chandler as having fully remodeled interiors when only partial updates were completed. A buyer relies on this statement and later discovers the discrepancy. This creates liability for both the agent and the broker. Case law, such as Hill v. Jones, reinforces the importance of accurate disclosure. While that case focused on seller disclosure, the principle extends to advertising. Material facts must be communicated truthfully. A critical takeaway: marketing language is not exempt from legal standards. Every statement must be accurate and defensible. Brokerage policy implementation, creating a culture of compliance. The only way to effectively manage advertising risk is through strong brokerage policies and consistent enforcement. Under AAC R4281103, brokers are required to establish written policies and procedures. These policies should specifically address advertising practices, including Clear guidelines for brokerage name display, rules for social media and digital advertising, approval processes for marketing materials, restrictions on AI-generated content, consequences for non-compliance. For example, a brokerage in Gilbert may implement a policy requiring all social media posts to include the brokerage name in the bio or caption pre-approval of listing advertisements, prohibition of certain high-risk phrases, e.g., guaranteed returns. Mandatory training on advertising compliance enforcement is just as important as policy creation. If policies exist but are not followed, the broker remains liable. This is where the brokerage's progressive discipline policy becomes critical. Repeated advertising violations should trigger corrective action, education, and, if necessary, penalties. Bringing it all together. Advertising is one of the highest risk areas in real estate because it is public, fast-moving, and often created without oversight. However, it is also one of the most controllable risks, if proper systems and policies are in place. This section reinforces the final theme of Chapter 5. Supervision must be active, visible, and enforceable. A compliant brokerage must supervise all advertising, ensure proper brokerage identification, manage risks related to social media and AI, prevent misrepresentation, implement and enforce clear policies. When done correctly, advertising builds trust and credibility. When done incorrectly, it becomes a direct path to disciplinary action. As we move into the next chapter, we will shift into enforcement and discipline, examining what happens when compliance fails and how brokers and agents can protect themselves. Online discussion. Why is the broker responsible for agent advertising? Answer: because Arizona law defines all agent advertising as advertising of the employing broker, making the broker responsible for compliance. What risks do social media and AI introduce in advertising? Answer: they can lead to missing brokerage identification, misrepresentation, data privacy issues, and violations of advertising rules. Why are written advertising policies important? Answer: they provide clear guidelines, reduce risk, and ensure consistent compliance across the brokerage.